some of the different ways that you can become a teacher here in California. And this is just a little bit about me and Jannet. We get to work together at Cuesta College in the teacher preparation programs. I didn't know, my background is in elementary education, and I work at both Cuesta and Cal Poly in teacher preparation. I also get to be a university supervisor, and I get to go out and observe students in the classroom as they're teacher candidates as they're getting their credential. Jannet, did you want to?
My background is not in teaching. I went to school to work with college students. So all your academic counselors, your financial aid specialists. We got a master's degree in either student affairs, college personnel, or higher education administration. But it's super awesome. These past few years have been really awesome. Learning about preparation programs, meeting people, networking that have given me the language and tools to support students. And also I work with undocumented students additionally. So it's been really interesting, complex, and just, it's been a privilege to serve undocumented students and learn how to support them, especially as they want to become teachers, because that can be complex. Education, getting hired, what does that look like? What does that mean? And so I'm super happy to be here with you all.
Thanks, Jannet. And Jannet and I'm sorry, my mouse is having fits. Jannet and I have kind of started at the same time at Cuesta. So we've learned a lot of things together along the way. And I'm so grateful always for her support and insights. And she's an incredible event organizer. So thank you, Jannet. And this is just a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, or that we're hoping to talk about. But of course, if you have questions or ideas or need clarification on anything, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or drop it in the chat. I'm having trouble getting the chat up, but I'll work on that when Janet's presenting. So if you haven't already, let us know your first and last name and where you're joining from. If you feel like keeping your camera on, we love to see your faces, but we also understand if that's not comfortable for you right now. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of the logistics, and then Janet's going to talk more about some of the ways that we can support one another and our friends and ourselves with our different interests and needs on our journey to teaching. And these are your clients when you become a teacher. So like, what's better than working for that bunch of kiddos right there? One of the things I've noticed about teaching that I love, that keeps me coming back to the classroom, is this exact thing, is how silly and fun everything is when we teach. Even on the hardest day, this is what you come back to the next morning. And I have found that it's intrinsically rewarding just to see these faces every day and to learn alongside these amazing kiddos. We need everyone to be a teacher right now and if you like kids, you're on the right path to becoming an educator. We need more teachers who represent a broader range of identities. Right now, we have we have not got enough teachers who understand the lived experiences of the broad range of students in California. We need more bilingual, we need more STEM, we need more special educators, and we need people who love kids and who are willing to take a chance and to learn, and who want to work with a bunch of kiddos like that. And you know what? Sometimes the college students are that way with me too. I get just as much of a rush out of my college students as I used to get out of my youngers. So before we dig into the talk, I'd love to know, what is your most memorable interaction with a teacher? So I ask you to type it in the chat, but don't push enter just yet. So think about, what is the most memorable thing you had with a teacher? It could be good or bad, but focusing on positives would be great. But maybe it was something that you did wrong that you learned a lesson from that really helped you later on, but something that was memorable to you. So I'm gonna be quiet for a moment and let you think. And then when I count down, we'll all push enter at the same time. All right, so you can keep going. And if you haven't finished yet, that's okay too. But when I count down, go ahead and hit enter and we'll see all the different things that people are remembering about their teachers. So 3, 2, 1, and watch the chat. Okay, so my teacher taking time to support me and push me, eating lunch and playing games while chatting, laughing and hugging after a scene that ended up being funny accidentally. Third grade teacher was so great. She inspired me to pursue a career in working with children. Okay, so we all have these different experiences, and a lot of us come into teaching because of these experiences, because we want to be there for our future students. So please keep adding about your experiences there in the chat. If you think of something, you can add it anytime. But in California, to become a teacher in elementary school, which is where we're focusing a lot of this part, because becoming a teacher for K through 12 has more requirements than it does for an early childhood educator right now. But early childhood educators are really important and make excellent elementary school teachers too. So however, if you want to teach in a K-12 right now in California, you need a bachelor's degree. It technically can be in anything, although some degrees make it a little easier to get your credential. You need to pass a basic skills requirement. You need to show that you have competency in basic subjects, and then you need to get your credential. And there's some really good news that the legislature just passed some new rules this summer that make it so that you can maybe skip the CBEST. And pretty much anyone graduating from a CSU who has completed the graduation requirements A2, A3, and B4, you will not have to take the CBEST as long as you got a B- or pass or credit or better in those courses. So that's wonderful that you wouldn't have to take the exams. The other thing is maybe you got a really great grade in writing and math and you got a C in reading. You can just take the reading section of the CBEST. So that I'm not going to go into details on that right now, but I just want you to know that there is something besides an exam that you can do to pass that. And these are, I'm not going to list through everything because because of my mess up, we're starting late. But there's a lot of different ways to meet this requirement. The bottom line is, if you don't want to take the CBEST, we can help you find a way to qualify without having to take the exam. And the subject matter requirement is something that we've commonly been meeting with a test called the C-SET, which is a much harder test for a lot of folks and takes a lot of time to study for. If you are majoring in liberal studies, that will fulfill the C-SET right now. It is very likely that in the next year or so, there will be a system for figuring out other majors with coursework that will count towards the subject matter requirement. The people you check with, I see Lauren's question there, are the credential analysts at the credential program that you're planning to go to. So right now, if you major in liberal studies and you get at least a B- or higher, or pass or credit in those other 3 areas, you'll pass both the basic skills and the subject matter without having to take an exam, which saves you money. So you're not having to pay for these exams. So we're learning more as we go. So the bottom line is, ask questions of the school that you plan to go to for your credential. And so there's different ways of getting your credential. The traditional little roadmap looks something like this. You get your bachelor's, make sure you pass your basic skills and your subject matter. You go into a credential program as a graduate. There are some integrated 4-year plans, and those are becoming more common. Then you go and do your student teaching, clinical practice. there are 2 more hurdles for you to pass before you get your credential. One is called an Edtpa, or a CAL, or an Edtpa, where you demonstrate your teaching skills and videotape them. The other is a reading instruction exam. Those 2 things do require a fair amount of work, but your credential program will prepare you for them. There are certificates you can also earn if you are a person who's in a community college. Community colleges have these awesome certificates that you can add to your degree as you go. And so if you're a person who wants to work while you're earning your credential, you might consider getting a certificate as a paraeducator, or getting your early childhood certificate, or a certificate in a foreign language, in a second language, because these things on your resume and in practice are going to help you do a better job and get a better job as an educator. These are the different ways you can get into your bachelor's degree, and I will share these slides with you so you'll have all these resources. Credential programs are generally a graduate program, and the traditional approach is 1 year after your 4-year college degree. It gets you ready for the exams. Most of the CSUs and a lot of the UCs do have these credential programs, and they're in person, although now a lot of them are using elements of online instruction after the pandemic forced it. Now they're seeing ways they can weave it in. There have always been, or there has been for some time now, a program called Cal State Teach, which is a fully online program run through the CSUs. And what's nice about Cal State Teach is you can actually be teaching and earning money while you get your credential. And it's designed for people who are working full time. Unfortunately, it's just for K-8 right now, multiple subject, so not for high school yet. But we have one. We're in San Luis Obispo County, and we have a coordinator here. So they're all over the state of California. And the benefit here is you're kind of getting the experience that's available through schools like Brandman and National, but you're not paying private tuition, you're paying Cal State tuition, which is pretty significantly different. There are other ways to learn while you teach. You can look for district internships. I'm not sure. It looks like there's a lot of folks from the Bay Area here, which is awesome. And I am betting there's probably internship programs in the Bay Area. There are at LAUSD. And basically what this is that they will partner you as a brand new person with a mentor who's been there for a while at the same school. And during the day you teach, and in the evening you go to school to learn different strategies, theories, and techniques. It is a challenging way to go, but if you really want to be a teacher and work while you're doing it, it's a great choice. It's well supported. And the governor has been really putting a lot of focus on these types of programs, because they really benefit our students and our future teachers. I don't know if you realize what a desperate need we have for teachers right now. So if one of these ideas sounds good to you, I encourage you to check it out. Other options are things like Teach for America, City Year, World Teach, AmeriCorps, and also this link here to this next generation service movement. My daughter actually is a Teach for America educator, and she's in her 2nd year. It is hard work, but she has been able to take a full-time salary while they're paying for her tuition to get her credential and also her master's. So if you're a person who has the capacity to just dive in full steam, this is a great way to go for a full-time teacher. But not everybody is, that's not what all of y'all are planning on, but it's just, these are just some different ways. You don't have to do the traditional way. And with the deep need for teachers right now, they're trying to provide a lot of financial incentives for folks to make it easier to become a teacher. So some of the things that you can do along the way is become a paraeducator. In our community, they're begging for paraeducators, and these are people who work right with a teacher in a classroom, either as a general supporter for that classroom or maybe with individual children who have learning plans and special needs. There is an exam that you need to take. All you need to be a paraeducator is a high school diploma. And then there is an exam you need to take. At Cuesta College, we have a fully asynchronous course that would prepare you for this exam. So you're welcome to check out Cuesta's course or look into it around your area. But if you're thinking you might want to work in a classroom, I would check out your local school district or county office because they need you. You can also look for jobs in tutoring, after-school programs, and in-home childcare providers. So these are all outstanding experiences for you to gather along the way towards becoming a classroom teacher, if that's your final goal. These are also excellent career paths for people who are interested in education, but may not be ready or interested in becoming a full-time classroom teacher themselves. So this is my last slide, and then Janet's going to take over. And just a couple of things that might come up in the conversations throughout this conference and also today is curriculum, pedagogy, and standards and assessment. So curriculum is what we teach. It's the content, it's the history, it's the math. Pedagogy is how we teach it. Do we stand up and lecture, or do we have small groups like figuring stuff out together? Or do we do a combination of that? It's the how we teach. Standards are a list of skills that people want to make sure kids can know and do. And assessment is just checking in to see if they did learn those things. So formative assessment is assessment that we take along the way throughout a lesson, and summative is like a final exam or project. So those are just some terms that you're going to come across as you're exploring all the different fields of education. And I'm going to turn it over to Jannet now because she is going to share with you from her expertise.
Thank you, Rosemary. Yes, so now that you know a little bit about, some of the things that you need to get to that teacher pathway, I encourage you to, if you haven't already, find someone on your campus that can, again, remind you of these steps, that can write them down for you the way Rosemary mapped them out for you. She had a really cool map. If you could go back to that map, I can definitely talk on, or the slides are moving, but so in that cool map, while you're at your associate's degree and your bachelor's degree, you may be wondering, how do I get from point A to point B? And really quick in the chat, please let me know if there's a resource on your campus that you use a lot. When I mean resource on your campus, I mean, is that the tutoring center? Is that, your faculty office hours? Is that, your dream center on campus, your cultural center on campus, or a mentor? Like, is there someone on campus that is very supportive of your goals, or someone, your supervisor? Please let me know in the chat. A resource that has been super awesome and helpful for you. And I bring that up because use them as a resource. You're at the community college right now, and you might be at a 4-year right now. Ask them for help. It's super important that you use your resources while you're at the school you're at, whether that is taking advantage of the free food cards they're giving right now because of COVID, or, that emergency funding they're giving because of the pandemic, whether it's, renting out that hotspot, that laptop, that food pantry once a month food drive. I know in the Bay, they have, some of the schools have Spark Point centers where they provide financial coaching and incentives for saving up your money. So I want to encourage you all to use the resources on your campus. If we could go back to the slide, Rosemary. Sorry about that. if you could take advantage of all those resources, the academic success coaching, that's gonna make you a better student. Just because the steps to get there, to get to that bachelor's, to get that associate's degree, you need to take advantage of what's in front of you. You know, if you're struggling in that history class because of the writing piece, maybe visiting the writing center. If you're struggling with time management, talk to a retention specialist, talk to an academic success coach, talk to your academic counselor so that they can help you uh, create strategies for studying, strategies for time management, because all of this will eventually reflect itself in the work that you do as a teacher. Your study habits, your time management, you know, that will impact how you lesson plan. Your organization, that will impact how you, you know, how you plan out your day, you know, what you pass out to your students. So you want to model what you eventually want your students to develop. And so I encourage you to, you know, take advantage of community resources, academic counselors, your tutoring. You know, if you feel like you want to visit the health center, that's okay too. Financial aid, they're there to help you. Well, you know, what other options are there for me to pay for school? And the office hours of your professors, the more you walk into their office hours, you'll see you're trying, ask questions. If you're struggling, they'll feel more comfortable reaching out to you because they already have a connection with you. And so take advantage of those resources. That's what's going to help you become a successful student, a successful teacher. And, you know, those skills will help you when working with your students. So we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. And so, like I said, I think I said it here, regardless of your status, you know, these resources are here for you. You know, maybe you have EOPS, Puente, the scholars programs, honor societies. Maybe there's programs that help you go from, you know, your community college to another 4-year. I know sometimes community colleges have these really cool promise programs that allow a smooth transition between a 2-year and a 4-year. So ask about those. Maybe your school has a, you know, a Latinx focused club or a Black Student Success Center. I know it was a Harbor College or El Camino College. There's a few colleges in LA that are starting to build Black Student Success Centers at the community colleges. I know Pasadena City College has something like that. So definitely take advantage of those programs that support your identities, that support your goals. And, you know, FAFSA, there's options out there in California for all types of students, whether you're undocumented, a resident, or a citizen. And yeah, we can move on to the next one. And so I think I talked a little bit about how I work with undocumented students. And one thing that I found working with Teacher Pathways, that there's a lot of students who, you know, are educators who are undocumented. I was reading an article recently about how there are so many undocumented people in California who are educators. And thanks to D.A.C.A, we are able to, you know, there is a large amount of teachers who have D.A.C.A who are teaching in our districts. And so it's like, how do we support you if you don't have D.A.C.A? But regardless of status, if you are AB 540, meaning you graduated with a high school diploma, a GED, you went to an adult school, or maybe you're taking community college classes to get credits so that you can qualify for AB 540. AB 540 means that you are eligible for in-state tuition. And I think maybe the CC of San Francisco, I think if you are taking under 6 units, they still pay for your classes, like if I'm correct. I know sometimes under 6 units at any community college, they don't cover tuition, but there are a few schools who are advocating for anybody under 6 units to get their fees covered, so you don't have to pay tuition. But if you do qualify for AB 540, or if you don't know if you qualify for AB 540, I recommend you reach out to admissions, the Office of Registrar and Admissions. They can help you apply for AB 540, and that will give you access to California DREAM Act, which is state aid in California for undocumented students interested in receiving financial aid to pay for school. This is money you don't have to pay back, and you don't have to have D.A.C.A. DA.C.A is not a requirement at all whatsoever to receive California Dream Act. DA.C.A is its own separate thing. That's what I always try and tell people. DA.C.A is a federal, it is federal. California Dream Act is something California created. And so sometimes people think, oh, do I have to have DA.C.A for AB 540? No, they're, AB 540 leads to access to California Dream Act. So associate AB 540 with California Dream Act, and DA.C.A is its own separate thing. I'll say that. But yes, if you have DA.C.A, you can be a teacher. It'll allow you to practice the teaching profession. And we can go on to the next slide. Because DA.C.A does give you a temporary work permit that is renewable every 2 years. And you may be wondering, well, what if I don't qualify for DA.C.A? Especially because right now they're not accepting new DA.C.A applications, just renewals. And so not having DA.C.A is super complex in this profession. Oftentimes it's like, what do I do with it? I'm getting a credential, or because in California, you are allowed to get licensed. Regardless of your status. Where it complicates is when you're trying to get hired. So this is where folks oftentimes are preparing to, in case they're ready for a pathway to status, in case something comes about and they can their immigration status changes. So in the meantime, if you don't have DA.C.A, I encourage folks to explore entrepreneurship, starting your own tutoring program that allows you to be a contractor to districts, a mentorship program that allows you to connect, teachers, current teachers to future teachers, a private teaching program, a daycare. And so I encourage you to explore those options so that you can also provide a service and still be involved in education. And it's super hard to talk about sometimes because you have to tell someone, unfortunately at this time, because of the federal laws in place, you cannot get hired despite being super prepared. And that's always a really hard conversation to have because you want to support people. You want them to be successful in what they want to do. But without discouraging them either, what can we do together in the meantime? What can you do with the skills you have at this time? So I encourage you all to consider that as options if this is something that impacts you directly or someone. And if we can go on to the next slide. There are some awesome opportunities out there right now on DocuHustle. So Immigrants Rising, actually, let me look this up because it's really cool. Since the last time we gave this presentation on DocuHustle through Immigrants Rising, which is located in the Bay Area, their headquarters are in Oakland. They just expanded their entrepreneurship program, and I put it in the chat. It's called Spark, and it's this huge effort to encourage undocumented entrepreneurs to expand their business, start their business. They even have seed money. They're encouraging folks to apply for an application that will give them money to start up that business. And they work with all the community colleges, CSUs, UCs. They're sometimes giving presentations on how to support undocumented students, if they want to go into education, if they want to go into science and math. And so they're a very well-trusted, reliable source for undocumented students in California. Thank you, Rosemary, for sharing those resources. And so she just put those in the chat. CADA is California Dream Act application. You'll see that be used, CADA instead of California Dream Act. And DocuHustle, that is what turned into Spark under Immigrants Rising. Dreamers Roadmap is a really cool tool in case you're looking for scholarships and so on, internships. Additionally, I want to encourage you all to explore the legal services at your community college. Because of an initiative from the Chancellor's office, every community college is required to have a dream center, is required to have legal services for their students focused on immigration. And so if you're a community college student, you are entitled to free services that will support you, inform you of your immigration status, see if there's a pathway for you, any options. And they're available at all UCs and CSU also. That has come from the governor he's very supportive. And so I think it's unfortunate because you'll hear of other students who are undocumented in other states and they don't have the opportunities that we have in California. But take advantage of this if this impacts you. We are very blessed to have a governor and 3 chancellors of 3 systems that are very supportive of undocumented students. So now every college that's a 4-year and a 2-year by 2022 should have a Dream Center in place. And so check it out, Google the college you want to go to, and then Dream Center. They should have one. Okay. And please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to unmute yourselves. I know I just gave a lot of information about, being a successful student outside of the classroom. What does it mean to have D.A.C.A? Can I be a teacher? Yes. Just make sure you're renewing that. And also, if you're at the community college and you have D.A.C.A, you need to renew, every community college in California is now offering assistance with the 495. So I will actually put that in the chat. So your school has money to help you with the 495 renewal fee. So while Rosemary talks, I'll find that and put that in the chat. And it's free money. You get it through the legal service that you that is at your community college. And so I think it's super awesome because that means you don't have to, find the 495 to pay yourself. So please share with your friends, anybody who this might impact.
Thanks, Janet. This is actually Janet's slide that she created. And so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it, or I mean, I added it in there because I thought you were, you have some really great advice here for folks, and you do such a great job with guiding our students down different pathways that they might want to take. But I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, you're good. Thank you. Yes. So honestly, learn, find an elevator speech. I know a long time in when I was doing my bachelor's, folks would ask me, what do you want to do with yourself, or what is your goal? And I was someone that used to rant a lot. Even right now, I think during this presentation, I was like all over the place. But sometimes it's like, what can I say in 2 sentences? That is something a mentor of mine, and when I was doing my bachelor's, taught me. And I started to think about that. I was like, oh my goodness, she's right. So definitely think about a pitch. What do you want people to know about you when you're meeting someone for the first time? Is it, career-wise, or when you introduce yourself as a community college student? Hi, I'm Jannet. I'm working on becoming a teacher for, I want to teach kindergarten, whatever that is. Practice that. And definitely figure out what motivates you and why you do what you do. Think about, what got me here in the first place. You want to know why, and it's okay if it evolves, like it's okay if all of these change as you grow. And one funny thing that I do for number 3, I sometimes text my mentors out of the blue, just like, hey, how are you? I'm thinking of you. What's been going on with you? And they all operate differently in my life. There's some folks that I outreach more for jobs, more for, I'm having conflict at work, or I am trying to figure out if I want to do a PhD right now. Or so they all have different purposes in my life. And so think about the people think about your family, your friends. Do your friends have a cousin that's a doctor? You want to be a doctor? That's a bad example in this case, but if you have a friend who has a mom who's a teacher, hey, can I connect with your mom? She's a teacher. So definitely use your community. It might surprise you how many people know other people. And sometimes you have to be afraid not to ask questions, and it took me a long time to get there, but ask the questions. There's no right or wrong, because you are going to get an answer. And like I said, for number 4, take advantage of the opportunities in front of you. Don't be afraid to apply for that internship, that scholarship. You might get it, and it might result in another opportunity. At the end of the day, one thing that I told myself was, your experience is what you make out of it. And so oftentimes, And I think that's hard because, you know, we work, we go to school. It's really hard to manage our time. You know, maybe you have a family at home. Maybe, you know, you're taking care of someone. So even if it means just connecting with the teacher, please take advantage of that. You know, don't feel the pressure to have an internship while you're at the community college, because I know sometimes, you know, folks work 2 jobs just to pay rent, or, you know, to pay for a room to help family. But just, you know, think about, you know, how does my experience here help me in my future career as a teacher? And, you know, if you can volunteer in places, do it. But again, check out your community college, because sometimes they have opportunities. We have peer mentors that community college students at Cuesta who work with other Cuesta students, and that's an experience in itself. So please take advantage of what's out there for you.
Thanks so much, Jannet. And you all, Jannet is really, she's helped so many of my students. She's helped so many of my students along the way, and continues to help students both at Cuesta and all over at Cal Poly as well, actually, because we're right across the street. So I just want to, before we wrap up and, excuse me, answer any final questions, I just want to bring it back to what the whole point of teaching is. And so sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle, but really it's about kids, and it's about learning with and teaching kids. And if you enter the profession as someone who loves kids and who loves learning, you will last a very long time. So these are some of the things I'll ask you to take away if you're interested in being a teacher. These are kind of your next steps. This is a quote I want to leave you with, that whoever teaches learns in the act of teaching, and whoever learns teaches in the act of learning. And Paulo Freire is a philosopher and educational theorist that is the driving force between a lot of what I do in my classroom and many teachers do. So think, if we approach this as learners and teachers, we get a whole lot more out of our profession. These are our contact emails. So I'm going to leave those up here for a moment while I ask you that if you would like a certificate that shows that you were here officially, please, in the chat right now, put your first and last name and your email where I need to send it. To be honest with you, it won't happen until the weekend. So I will get to work on those, because I have to send those out individually, but I want to let you know that I'll get them for you. And I really apologize. This was my fault for the miscommunication and the error that I made in putting the link together in the email. So I'm really sorry for those of you who were frustrated getting signed on to the workshop and the time that it took away. So with the last couple minutes, if there's anyone who has a question, just unmute or pop it in the chat, please.
I have a question regarding the CBEST. I'm currently taking the CBEST. I fulfilled the English requirement, the essay requirement, and now I'm stuck with the math.
Okay.
I have dyscalculia, so it's been a little hard for me, and it's been my setback, really.
Mm-hmm.
Is there do I have to finish the CBEST in the math section, or can I prove that I fulfilled all the math requirements in college and I passed with a C, and I'm sort of okay? Because I plan to teach English, so I've been just stuck in this one phase in my teaching career.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And the thing is that it's very possible, if you took any, if you satisfied the B4 graduation requirement or the equivalent that's in the CSU with a grade of B-, pass, or credit, then you should be able to get signed off on that. If if it's been a while since you went to school, it doesn't matter. It doesn't expire. So
Mhm.
what I would recommend is if you are you working through a credential program or the county or like another credentialing?
I wanted to apply to SF State, and before I can even enter the program, I have to complete the CBES, CSET, and volunteer hours in the school
Okay.
age level. And so I haven't even got into the other parts or even
Yeah.
close to applying to the credential because I'm stuck with this math.
Okay,
And
so what I would say, I would encourage you to first check the web page for the School of Education to see if they have a post of how they're handling this situation. Unfortunately, each of the colleges is having to handle it in whatever way works for them. And for example, at Cal Poly SLO, they have a worksheet posted on the website for you to kind of fill in and see what might meet those different criteria. If you have, I'm gonna go try to find the slide. If you have, let me see. If you have the course, if you have a course that was in algebra, geometry, mathematics, quantitative reasoning, or statistics in your undergraduate, and you pass that with a B- or pass or credit, then you should be off the hook, but you're going to have to submit that for approval because you have to tell them how you're planning to meet that requirement. So if you have that and you have it at that grade, then you should be fine.
Natalie, remind me what credential is it? Single subject or multiple subjects?
It's a single subject in English. But
Yeah.
I can't apply to the program until I finish the CBES, CSET, and do my volunteer hours. And it's been sort of like 2 years now where I'm still on the
because
CBES.
they waived the requirement for entry because of COVID. So have you talked to the folks at SF State?
Yeah, they still said you have to take the CBES. And
That's
CSET,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where I feel a little discouraged half of the time because I'm still in plot 1. Or
well, you know what? If you wanted to connect outside of this, I'd be happy to like try to talk about your specific situation. But
Okay, yeah.
this is a really good question for this group to be hearing, because the unfortunate truth is that there has been a lot of different ways of approaching this because of the way the legislation was written. It doesn't give as much direction as it should. And so it's left it to our credential analysts all over the place to just, I mean, it's a lot of extra work for them. So each school has handled it a little differently, but maybe if you and I can communicate outside of this, where we can get into the nitty gritty of what where you're going on your path.
Okay,
and that's unfortunately like what it's taking is one-on-one evaluation of these things. And so that's why it's been hard on the CSUs.
Oh, yes. For sure. Thank you so much, Rosemary.
Yeah. So why don't you email me and we'll figure out a time we can talk.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks so much. And I think our time is officially up, and I'm going to go back to the very last slide with our contact info. If you need anything or want to chat or want to pick up on anything that either of us said, please contact us. We're available. We want to be here to help you out. And thank you for coming and for your patience with my technical error.
Someone has their hand raised, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Can you please pronounce your name, because I am not sure how to pronounce it? Wijam?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How can I?
The PowerPoint, I can download it.
I dropped a link to it in the chat. Let me get out of here and I can drop another. I can do that again. Let me stop.
You cannot download.
Yeah, it's a Google Slides. So you can download. You should be able to make a copy of it and download it.
But it cannot work. I tried, but it cannot work.
You should we show an example, like share the screen?
Yeah, I can show you how to do it. Here, Janet's so smart. Yep. Hold on a second here. So let's say
So right there where you're at, go to file and hit download. It's 2 down there.
Right.
And then under file, there's a option called download, and you can download as a Microsoft PowerPoint or a PDF
Yeah.
if you want.
But he only the review only. I can
Okay.
download it, so, but I don't know what happens.
I
ask-
will, how about I'll make a PDF of it and I'll send it to you. Okay, so I'll send you an actual PDF if it's not cooperating for you on your end.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure,
Thank you.
sure. Thanks. Is there anybody else? Thanks, Janet.
Anybody else have questions, have problems with the PowerPoint? If not, we're set, and you all have our contact info